Okay, guys, and welcome to nutrition and sleep. Okay, so let's dive in. And I'm sure you already know, like nutrition can have a profound impact on how our body functions, and that is also including sleep. So, since our body is basically a system that works optimally only when complex interconnected subsystems work as they should, it's no wonder that the things that we consume has a massive impact on our sleep. So there's been, apologies for this is loading. There's been large studies that have found that people who consistently have poor sleeping habits tend to also have an adequate quality of diets, like for example less protein, fewer fruits and vegetables, and a higher intake of sugary foods and fatty foods, ultra processed foods as well. So, however, due to the nature and field of like this research, it can only demonstrate correlations, not the actual cause. And these studies are also unable to explain whether bad diet has a, you know, precedes and causes bad sleep or the opposite. But there is quite a lot of information out there that suggests it might. So what I'm basically saying that all those studies may suggest that it's not actually been proven. However, if you're if you're eating high sugary foods late at night, I'm sure obviously your blood glucose is going to go up, and it's going to be hard for you to actually start settling down and preparing your body for the sleep phase. So let's start talking about negative impact and start looking at things that affect our sleep negatively. Caffeine, this starting by the obvious first choice, caffeine is something that we all know isn't the best option to consume before sleep. But why is that? Due to the stimulant properties of caffeine, it prevents the formation of adenosine, and a neurotransmitter that aids sleep. Coffee, tea, soda, chocolate, and some medications contain caffeine, and you should avoid obviously drinking coffee for at least 6 hours before bed. Then you have foods full of saturated fat. According to, there's multiple studies there, it shows consuming more sugar, saturated fat, and fewer fibre leads to lighter, less restorative sleep. That is also disturbs it more. And foods that have a lot of saturated fat include butter, sausages, bacon, cheese, salami, etc. Let's move on a little bit. And three, yeah, a lot of sugar. Although consuming slow carbs 4 hours before bed may improve your sleep, but it's also important to know that eating fast carbs, like simple sugars, close to bedtime have a greater impact or negative impact on your sleep. So when you eat a lot of sugar, as I mentioned there before, blood sugar levels rise, your body releases insulin. Should have heard of that before. In order to regulate the levels of sugar in your body, insulin is released to actually pull the sugar into the muscle. And this is a big problem because high insulin levels then have shown to hinder the release of human growth hormone, otherwise known as HGH. As you probably remember from earlier, the HGH restores and grows our cells and therefore has a big role in sleep's restorative function. It's just thinking about how these hormones are impacted by a lack of sleep as well. Alcohol and marijuana, although some people can't fall asleep without the aid of these, you could technically call them two drugs. The effect they have on the quality of sleep is, yeah, there's a massive impact. Like both alcohol and marijuana even reduce the time you spend in that REM sleep, and which means you aren't getting enough memory forming, leading consolidation, if you want to call it that, and emotional regulation, which all obviously benefits us. Secondly, alcohol dehydrates you, and obviously dehydration can negatively affect your sleep. Spicy and acidic foods, heavy meals, cold drinks, all the things we just mentioned, you know, these may again impact your sleep again, and especially spicy and acidic foods, they can cause upset stomachs. You know, spicy foods, if you think about it as a irritant, you know, well, a heavy meal may lead to indigestion, making it hard to fall asleep. And just think about that as well. Think about how food's digested. Obviously, we've got a normal gravity. The food comes down. If you're lying, you know, flat, it's not going to digest as well. You know, and obviously we want our food to digest as much as possible. So we've got the bioavailability there, so we're able to digest as much minerals and vitamins as we can. Obviously, we don't want any kind of bloating or digestive issues. And if you have got that, think about what time you're actually having your last meal. So think about that as well. And cold beverages tend to cause problems when we consume something, you know, cold, and it has to heat up. You know, like our bodies need to try and combat that as well. And again, this can cause issues. You know, like our body, the opposite as well. Like there can be problems there where our body needs to lower its temperature during sleep, which is the complete opposite of the effect of that of cold beverages. This is probably the origin of warm malt before bedtime tip, so think about that. And one glass of cold water won't kill you, obviously, but you'll definitely be better off drinking something slightly warmer. Personally, I have a cup of decaf green tea, and I have this 4 hours before my bed. Positive impact by, you know, implementing different things. So vitamin D, most of the human population is deficient in vitamin D. Like I'm in Scotland and we have hardly any sun, and that's definitely one of the supplements I take on a daily basis, is taking vitamin D. When it comes to sleep, it can help the quality of your sleep because it triggers melatonin later in the day. This is why vitamin D should be taken earlier in the day. Hopefully that makes sense. And just like we would get in nature, it aligns with the circadian rhythm. You know, that's when the sun rises. And also you're consuming it with a few grams of fat, preferably unsaturated fat, as vitamin D is soluble only in fat. That's something else to think about. Okay, and moving on. Let's load a little bit. Yeah, I thought it was interesting as well, interesting to think about. Like that's why you want to take your vitamin D early in the day, so that allows the body to metabolize it and allow better sleep. Then you have tryptophan. This is an amino acid that aids in the body's production of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter. This encourages sleep. So tryptophan can be found in foods like turkey, poultry, cheese, almonds, and seeds. And you have complex and slow carbs. These are a much more stable blood sugar controller, if you want to call it that. And this means that slow carbs won't affect your HGH release. Also seems that carbs may have something to do with the helping of tryptophan as well. So bear that in mind. Then you have B vitamins, so micronutrients like B vitamins control the release of sleep hormones. B12, which is naturally present in animal products, such as meat, fish, milk, cheese, and eggs, is also involved in the release of melatonin as well. You know, and you usually find things that help a similar function. They're usually intertwined, usually help each other. Just like vitamin D and calcium and magnesium work well together. So there's There's usually compounds or complex of vitamins that work well together, so it's not just about supplementing one. And you know, we have B6. This is also crucial it's a crucial B vitamin where it helps you sleep, and again, it has an involvement in serotonin synthesis. So I'll slow down here a little bit. Yeah, so in terms of the B vitamins, again, you want to be taking these in the morning, especially the vitamin B12, as it can interfere with your sleep if taken before bed. So think about that as well. So anything to do with sleep that you're supplementing for should be taken in the morning. That's a good strategy to think about. You know, but you know, having said that, it's important to remember we still remember that we need to remember that sleep and nutrition, that they're complex, they're interconnected systems that work similarly, and therefore, like, sleep also affects our nutrition. So although you want to eat to help you sleep, again, sleep helps your nutrition. Again, think about it that way. You just want to increase that bioavailability. That's a word that I want you to start thinking about. You know, we want to promote good digestion as well. So yeah, according to, there's some studies that show people who don't get enough sleep are more likely to increase their food intake without increasing their energy expenditure. And again, this is made worse by the fact that they're not sleeping well. Then they get into this vicious cycle where there's a desire for a high calorie food choice, and you know, again, they're not getting much micronutrients and vitamins in there, and it's just, you know, that there's lots of things. It's a bit of a vicious cycle. So hopefully that was helpful. Quite a lot of things to think about there. Tell me your biggest takeaway from that. Let me know. Perfect. So that's nutrition. Next, we are going to be talking about exercise and sleep.